Kate Bowen, owner of Meadowdale Farm in Putney, explains Vermont's current farming crisis and how revised agricultural policies informed by innovative and efficient practices offer solutions. So Kate, last year there were reports that a suicide prevention hotline had to be set up for our farmers. Why are farmers in Vermont facing such an existential crisis?
Well, farming is unique, I think, in a lot of ways because no matter how you farm or what you raise, farming is really part of your identity. Okay. And there's a lot of pressures on multi-generational farms, and when economic crises happen that are outside of a farmer's scope of remedying the problem, right, there's a lot of pressure to keep the level of the farm going economically, and not selling the business and right, selling off the land. So it can be an immense amount of pressure. It's also really isolating. You're often just working long hours on your farm. So reaching out and networking with other people in your community, even if it's just the guy who's picking up milk or your grain truck driver, but reaching out if you need help, I think is really important. And that's something that's challenging for independent, hardworking people to do that first step of asking for help. Right. But I think because of the economic pressures coupled with the isolation, okay, that's really the main reason for it.
So that's interesting that you bring it up, because Art Wolf, he is a professor at UVM and a frequent commentator on the Vermont economy, and he has said that while farming is a very important part of Vermont's history and heritage, it will never be a large part of our economy. And I'm sure you don't agree with that, but right, do you think that this kind of mentality, this kind of rhetoric is adding to the pressures on our farmers? Yeah,
and while I fully respect Dr. Wolf's work and his work with Governor Kunin, and also just as a economist and professor, I do disagree. I think also his background coming from seeing more farms in Wisconsin, that's a really different dairy model right, than we have in Vermont. Right. And a lot of that is just based around our size of our state. Right. But I do feel like it's part of our identity, it's part of our culture, and I think with enough adaptation, it can be something that's economically viable and helps the state thriving.
So how is the federal government and state government helping or hurting farming be a viable part of our economy?
Well, right now it's challenging, and there's no perfect answer or easy solution to fix it because right, there's so many different factors in right, play. Right. But I do think whenever you lessen the bureaucratic burdensome regulation right, yeah, and fees and regulation, that can really help stimulate economic growth. Okay. And I think marketing and going back to that, building the Vermont brand as something that we can sell outside of the state and in the global marketplace is going to be essential, because we do have exceptionally high quality products with our beer growing businesses. Right, we have grain businesses that are starting, and then also the sort of standards that we have with our high quality cheeses and butters. All of those things could be marketed around the globe.
So it's just about those channels, as you said, the food yes, distribution channels that we need to get. Yes. We have great products yes, and a great yep, brand, yep, but we just need to be able to, and having regulatory burdens or having a lot of interference, and right, then all this, right, the cultural,
Yeah, and one issue that we're facing now head on is as the population in Vermont is changing and yeah, just our demographics, yeah, we're having a little bit more of a conversation with people who didn't grow up around agriculture, and what does it look like to have a environmentally friendly, sustainable farm okay, in your backyard, and what does that actually look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? Right. And then coming to a realistic compromise that works for the business right, and the people of the state.
That's a perfect segue, because we're going to now look at the cultural and political battle that goes on between environmentalists and farmers. And for that, Kate, you will join us again
Thank you.
Next week, right here at the Equinox Resort Library. Join us then.